Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_Access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. It is finally family night. I'm so excited that we're getting the family night tonight at Lambeau Field. We're going to see the guys down there on the field, throwing pigskins around, throwing at nets, kicking field goals, doing a little 11-on-11, albeit probably not full contact, I'm sure. And, it's going to be an exciting time. So appreciate everybody joining us. I'm expecting a light crowd. Obviously, we're doing a morning episode here. And the reason being we got plans tonight. Everybody's going to be watching Family Night as well. Be ready for tomorrow. We're going to do a full recap of everything that happened at Family Night. Going to be a lot of fun. So today on tap, we're going to prep you for Family Night, all right? What we're going to do is we're going to go through the offensive side of the ball and give you what we think are the top position battles on offense to kind of watch for, and then the top the top position battles on defense as well. Now, understand, we're not going to get answers to these at Family Night. We're just trying to give everybody, hey, going into Family Night, here's how the position groups look to us, all right? And you may disagree. If so, let us know in the chat. Good to see you in your way. But I need everybody to do that YouTube stuff for me real quick. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. We appreciate you making us a part of your morning. Listen, we're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're not media members. What we are, just fans just like you. We're in here talking Packers on the daily. During the season, we're going to be bringing you pregame shows, postgame shows, in-depth analysis, film breakdown, the whole 9 yards. Anytime there's breaking news, you'll get a random live stream in the middle of the day. Just a kind of a one-stop shop for all your daily Packers content, if you will. So if you're looking for that type of stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit like for us as well. Feel free to share with a friend. Tim, Jacob, y'all ready to dive into this info, man?
Yeah, real quick, though, I would be remiss for me not to mention that we are 2 hours away from 84 being enshrined in Canton, Ohio. So I just want to give a big salute to Sterling Sharpe and the Sharpe family. It's a big day. Before we head into Family Night, we get the extra treat of Mr. Sharpe going into the Hall of Fame. The first brother duo to make it to Canton. So
is that the first brother duo?
That is correct. Ooh. Shannon and Sterling Sharpe together forever in Canton. It's a big day for all of us old geezer 80s babies, Packer fans who grew up watching Sterling Sharpe play football in Green Bay. So real happy for the Sharpe family. Just wanted to mention that.
That's super cool. That's super cool. I actually have, I think I've told you guys this before. I have one of those old school lockers, kid lockers from like 1996. And I put 84 and tried to spell Sterling Sharpe, but his name was too long. So you can tell that mini Jacob had about the same brain capacity as old Jacob. But
it's funny too. We got Hardy the Prophet here in the chat. He is live, boots on the ground over there. So let's just take a quick look at some of the content he's put out for the Hall of Fame parade. My man there, that's a good looking group right there, man. You know, they know how to put down the daddy soda, and they know how to probably grill a brat over there in Canton as well. So
that's awesome.
Here's a nice little shot of the setup for the parade that's about to come through, right? And then lo and behold, look what we got here. 5 football legends. Let's take a look. And you guys got good vantage point here. Absolutely.
Oh, there we go. Look at that right there.
There's the Sharpe brothers. Nice little Mustang too. Mustang convertible, not bad. Love it. There's Antonio Gates, looks like. And then Tony Dungy.
Yes.
Probably the grandson, I would imagine. So it looks like a little young Baron Sorrell there in the front, too, don't it? Kind of favors Barons. So absolutely awesome. And here's a video of our boy, Sterling Sharpe, coming.
Love it.
Absolutely awesome, man. So, Hardy, thank you so much for bringing us that extra content there, buddy. You guys, make sure you go give him a follow at Hardy_AUST51213. All right, go give him a follow over on X. Appreciate that content, pal. You be safe out there. All right. Let's jump into some position battles and what to kind of look for here on Family Night. Just kind of keep an eye on. Again, it's not that anything's going to be decided tonight, but you get in front of a home crowd, Jacob, and it's like, okay, you're now in front of, a semi-packed, it may be full, who knows, right, at Lambeau, and you get your first taste of that Lambeau Field mystique, right? I like to see who kind of rises to the occasion. You know what I mean? I like to see who propels himself into the, hey, look, I'm built for this. I feel like Matthew Golden is built for it because he's got, whether we want to admit it or not, or he wants to admit it or not, there's a lot of pressure on Matthew Golden. And the fact that he's been performing in camp under that pressure, really, really exciting. But before we dive into the battles, Jacob, what do you think about Family Night? Any pre-show thoughts here, I guess you'd say?
No, I think what you just said is very apt. The fact that the Green Bay Packers are able to give, their UDFAs, their early round draft guys, the guys that are just new to this team, an actual game-like scenario to actually before they even start the preseason is something I think is very unique, very special. I've told you guys before, I went to the first family night ever with my family. It was one of the best things I'd ever done, watching my grandma and grandpa, with the fireworks and just kind of seeing everything. That was when they really kind of started doing a lot of the renovations too. So it looks very different than it did back then. It's just really, really cool that, when you are a diehard Packer fan, when you live in Wisconsin, getting to see the way that they've kind of overhauled that stadium and the whole district and the Titletown area has just been something special. And we just got to obviously have the draft there and show it off to the world. And now, the start of this season is something that I'm really excited for. And like you said, man, just watching some of these younger players like Golden, especially some of the rookies, I just really am excited to see how they react to that immediate kind of fandom and stardom that Green Bay provides.
Yeah. That's a great point, Jacob. Like you talk about a tactical advantage, right? For a young player, get them out there under the lights in front of the fans. I mean, nobody does it like Green Bay, right? 80,000 for a practice. I mean, come on. So it's a chance that before preseason even starts, before we're even going game speed here, you've got an opportunity to get out in front of the crowd under the lights. And, a lot of times that's kind of where you separate the men from the boys, right? You can kind of see who freezes up and maybe
the wheat from the chaff, as they say, right?
Yes. And I agree
that's
with
right.
Clayton. I think Clayton has a great point. I think Matthew Golden is built for moments like these. I don't think he's gonna freeze under the lights. I think he's gonna soak this all in, and it's gonna be a good way to hit the ground running for rookies and even some of the second year guys. You know what I mean? Just to get it going again and get the juices flowing, get out in front of the home crowd, and really kind of start your season off, or at least your preseason off, the right way for sure.
Yeah, definitely. H.E. Solder in the chat says, watching a Family Night preview live clearly indicates my need for Packers content has moved to an unhealthy level. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it too. So let's get into it here. All right. First things first. All right. So below are some of the key position battles for the Green Bay Packers ahead of Saturday's Family Night practice at Lambeau Field as teams prepare to cut rosters from 90 to 53 by August the 26th. So earmark that according to AI here. August 26th is the cut down date. GM Brian Gutekunst emphasizes the importance of evaluating players in high-intensity settings like Family Night without constant coaching input, kind of turn them loose out there in front of the fans, right? So here is the first battle, the battle for the number 3 quarterback spot. People go, whoa, we ain't carrying 3. You're correct. But the chances that we carry 2 practice squad quarterbacks, I feel like it's probably pretty slim, seeing that some of the other positions we want to kind of stack some talent there. So here's what we got. Sean Clifford, experienced from Penn State and 2 prior NFL camps, has been more productive and accurate than undrafted free agent Taylor Elgersma from Canadian college football. Clifford performs better in drills like escaping pockets and hitting targets. Elgersma shows potential but lacks consistency. Decision weighs production versus potential. Backup Malik Willis is solid and could leave next offseason, making number 3 potentially next year's number 2. So it's kind of a twofold here, Tim. What you're looking for with this number 3 quarterback is someone who's going to help with the scout team, right? And you got to have someone that, look, God forbid an injury happened, that dude's going to be active on game day as the backup. But also the chances of Malik Willis returning to Green Bay next year, slim to none. So this is going to be your potential backup next year. And who knows, they both may be gone next year and you move on to another backup. But as it sits right now, that's kind of how things are shaking out. What do you think about this? Do you think there's a chance that Taylor Elgersma knocks off our boy Sean Clifford, because we've said it time and time again, Matt LaFleur, he always refers to Sean Clifford as a quote unquote gamer. He loves that.
Yeah, I think the picture you chose here for the article is perfect too. Our crew member there is pointing right at the guy that's the odd man out at this point in camp right now. I think he's basically telling you who's gonna be leaving. But you know, we're kind of, I don't know. I mean, unless you never know, maybe Taylor Elgersma is one of those dudes that, you know, he gets under the lights and starts throwing lasers. And, you know, we see him kind of take a step here as we finish out, you know, camp. And, you know, we have to remember, we haven't played a preseason game yet. I'm assuming we're going to see a ton of preseason reps from Air Canada, as they call them. So I guess my question is, do we know that Sean Clifford is the safe bet, right? If we're talking about that QB3 scenario. But the question is, with the possible departure of Malik Willis next year, do we really see Sean Clifford as our number 2 going into 2026 would be my question. Is that a legitimate plan, or are we looking, like you said, bring in another quarterback, like an Elgersma or like another draft pick to kind of keep the QB, factory moving like it usually does here in Green Bay. I feel like Sean Clifford is a great option. I have nothing against him. I love the way he plays the game. But let's be honest, he's getting older too. He's a little bit older than Jordan Love, I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know, unless maybe that's his role. Maybe he's, you know, one of these, not journeymen, but like a guy that's going to be a solid backup option for you going forward. I don't think any of us thinks that Sean Clifford's going to go win a starting job somewhere anytime soon, right? So is that the plan going forward at your backup spot, you know, if you don't have a Malik Willis around next year? That would be my question.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm really, really sure on here, Jacob, is you'll have no problem landing or passing Sean Clifford or Taylor Elgersma to the practice squad. You ain't got to worry about anybody signing those guys, right? So which would you choose? Do you go with what some believe is the higher upside with Taylor Elgersma, or would you go with kind of what Tim was talking about, Sean Clifford, the guy who knows the system, played a lot of played more football than Jordan Love up to the point when Jordan was still the backup in Green Bay? That was really, really highly, widely reported that, hey, Sean Clifford's actually got more starts in college than Jordan Love had. Played a lot more football, obviously being at Penn State. But how do you see it, man?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd have to stick with Clifford, that big red dog, is what I'm thinking. I look back at how he started his career. I believe that he was drafted with the idea in mind that, hey, this guy's got so much knowledge. He's really a student of the game. I think he had a longer career than most quarterbacks at that time. As you said, playing in the Big Ten, playing for Penn State, playing against real competition. I believe he actually played with Walker too, which is kind of cool. And I think that when they brought him in, they were doing that as to have a guy that Jordan Love could kind of lean on, that he could maybe help him execute some of the X's and O's, kind of read through the playbook. Like you said, there's different roles for certain backups. Sometimes you just want a guy that can hum that tater. And a lot of times you want a guy that can almost be like a second coach, that's more of a mentor to a guy. And I think that's what Clifford has been. Obviously, I do believe that Malik Willis is the best backup quarterback right now in the league, right? I really do believe that. As far as the third string quarterback goes, I don't think that you could ask for much more than what Sean Clifford provides. Like Tim said, he is getting older. So I think that in the quarterback rotation this year, they might want to stick with him just because he's got that continuity. He's been with Love for as long as I can remember. He's seen the offense, the way that's transgressed and progressed, I should say. And I just think that right now, this season, it doesn't make sense to maybe let him walk. If we can sneak him on the practice squad, and then God forbid, injuries, that sort of thing, I think that he is, in a pinch, a guy that can also make some plays. You forget, people are calling him mini Brett Favre for a hot minute. The guy came in and he was not afraid to throw that ball. So, yeah.
H.E. Solder says Elgersma, if cut, might jump back to Canada. It's totally possible, Solder. And if I remember correctly, the Cincinnati Bengals also invited him into their camp. So the Bengals were a little bit interested. Would they see enough value in him to put him on their practice squad if the Packers decide to go with Sean Clifford on their practice squad? I'm also not ruling out them carrying both of them on the practice squad if they like them both a lot. I personally wouldn't want to see them go that route, but you never know. So we'll see how that shakes out. All right, moving on to the next camp battle here. Running backs, the backup roles. Okay, initial question was keeping Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd, and Chris Brooks, or just the first three. Now, we got injuries that are playing a role in this, as it always does, right? Marshawn Lloyd with the groin out since first padded practice, all right? And Wilson with a knee tweak, not serious, short absence, won't play Saturday, okay? So keep in mind, that's what you've got going on with the running backs. So you got Marshawn Lloyd and Wilson missing time right now. That opens the door for Chris Brooks. He's rugged. He's versatile. We talked about his pass blocking ability, his ability to catch the football out of the backfield. Matt LaFleur really, I mean, we've seen them use him in that left sidecar lead block role in our pony package as well, right? In the double sidecar gun sets. So, Matt LaFleur really likes the versatility he brings to the table. There's no doubt about that. Now, undrafted rookies, Amar Johnson, we talked about him, right? From the Jackrabbits there, played alongside Tucker Kraft, if I remember correctly, or at least went to the same alma mater. Amar Johnson, he did everything he could possible with his opportunities at a smaller school. But it's still a smaller school, and you know how scouts and pro personnel departments, they're always going to look at it that way. Amar Johnson, to me, is leading the charge here in this role. You got Jalen White that's in there as well, plus Israel Abanikanda.
Nice.
Gets drafted.
Nailed it.
To prove roster worth. So what we're looking at here is, let's assume Marshawn Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson will be healthy. I think they will be healthy, as we, churn out our 53-man roster. So if they both make the roster, now the question becomes, do you keep Chris Brooks being the fourth running back, or do you try to stash Chris Brooks on the practice squad? And on top of that, is there any chance, any way possible that one of these other three guys, Johnson, White, or Abanikanda, beats out Chris Brooks for that fourth spot if you decide to go that route? What do you guys think about that?
Man, I just think that Matt LaFleur likes Chris Brooks too much. The way that he used him in late in the last season and in really key situations, I just feel like that LaFleur, when he likes a guy, he's going to probably pull for that guy. And I don't even think that I think there's a chance that Chris Brooks might not even make this team, and we could probably sneak him out of the practice squad. But it is enticing to look at guys like Izzy or Iggy and Amar, as Coach Lynn is calling them right there. And, running back is such an odd position, because I feel like that's one of the few positions where guys like UDFAs, guys from small schools, they can just come out of nowhere and splash. And it just depends on if they get a break and, what's going on with the team and the lineup. I think we're really blessed to have the running back room that we do. I think we're very sturdy with the first two. I love Emmanuel Wilson. I wish I could see him play tonight. Obviously, we know the absolute beast and leader we have in Josh Jacobs. That third string running back, though, man, that is going to be an interesting camp battle. As multiple people have said, I'd hate to be the guy making those cuts. That is one that I just wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, same. Coach Lynn says in the chat, Amar and Izzy going to get an extended look for sure, Tim. This is what's exciting about preseason football. I can't wait to see Amar Johnson. And what if Amar Johnson pops the way that our boy Emmanuel Wilson did a couple years ago? Yeah. Remember the first time we seen him? He was design stretch left and took it back B gap right up the sideline, and it was off to the races, man.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes preseason football really fun to watch when you're watching the game, because you got guys out there playing for their NFL lives every week, and they're going to do what they can to flash or to, show up on film, for the staff to make it difficult to cut them. To that point, I agree with Matt LaFleur. I mean, I like Mr. Brooks. I mean, he's the front runner for me for that final spot. At the end of the day. But it also depends on, is he going to continue to build on the performances we saw from him last season? If he takes the slightest step back, and anybody else, whether it's Jalen White or Johnson or anybody on this roster, flashes a little bit, that can have a ripple effect throughout the rest of your training camp and preseason. And it could be the difference in you making this team, not making this team, or, being a practice squad guy or getting an outright release, depending on, how cut down kind of shapes up. So, I mean, I feel good about this running back room. I'll tell you that. I mean, rooter to the tutor, as they would say, right? I mean, let's not forget about the Savion Williams factor too. We've talked about him being a dual, triple, quadruple threat kind of a player. And in a pinch, I feel like there might be a running back or two hanging around that wide receiver room if we really needed it. So you got to feel good about the running game, bare bones, going into this season. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Tim, do you think a guy like Savion Williams allows you to go weaker, or I shouldn't say weaker, but lower in numbers, let's say, in the running back room and possibly even the tight end room? Just a guy that is that much of a slash, you know?
I would argue more so maybe as in the running back room than the tight end room.
Right.
But I think a big part of that also depends on, and this goes the same for, Jalen White, Amar Johnson, Abinaconda, all these guys. How quickly can you grasp Matt LaFleur's offense in that role? I mean, right. We can talk about Savion going back there and being a number 3 or 4 back if we really needed it. Can he process the offense from that perspective? That's time's going to tell. So I think the possibilities are endless, but that, again, it goes to the point of you got to feel good about the depth we have on this roster right now, even before we're seeing cut downs. And I think we're going to see a lot of other faces brought into camp, in and out. We're going to see guys getting worked out, invited to camp, both sides of the ball. So, pay attention to all those names and numbers that you might not recognize, initially, because, some of them might stick around and might find their way onto this football team. You never know.
Yeah. And what Coach Lynn says right here is spot on. How well can they pass block also? That's typically – I've noticed that with the 4th running back on the roster, or that guy that's kind of hovering around the practice squad. Matt LaFleur likes to make sure those guys are really good in pass pro, right? Yeah. Emmanuel Wilson, it was kind of the opposite. It was like he showed so much in preseason, like we can't let this guy go, right? And I'll never forget Gary Ellerson, former Packers and Badgers running back, talking about it like that's not normal. That cut that kid made, that's not normal. Lo and behold, 2 years later, we're looking up and he's grading out in the top 10 amongst running backs in the NFL. So, but I will say this about Emmanuel Wilson. His pass blocking has improved tremendously too. So it's something that can be worked on, obviously. So let's move along to wide receiver. Man, I'm so excited about Matthew Golden, dude. I haven't been this excited about a wide receiver in Green Bay. Like, I wasn't this excited about Christian Watson. If you guys remember when we did our live stream on that, and that was like my first year covering the draft with PackerNet, everybody was fired up over Christian Watson. And don't get me wrong, I was excited, but I'm just like, it's just the way that when you looked at Christian Watson, it was like, okay, he's got to improve his hands. He's a freak. He's a speed, like everything you want him to, if you could craft a wide receiver with the physical traits, right, you'd say Christian Watson, this is the dude right here. Just got to stay healthy. But when you see Matthew Golden attack the football, man, it's something different. It really is. So he's really, really impressed. But what we're talking about with receivers isn't necessarily, will Matthew Golden make the roster, right? We're talking about playing time distribution. So likely week 1 group will be Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, first rounder Matthew Golden, third rounder Savion Williams, and either Malik Heath or Mecole Hardman. Okay. Heath versus Hardman, unsettled. Heath's a physical blocker. Hardman's proven returner. So you got Hardman with the take the top off speed and the agility to be a great returner. Malik Heath, physical blocker, and he led the Packers in catch rate over expected, believe it or not. Minute amount of snaps, but nonetheless still led in that. The core snaps to proven, Doubs, Reed, Wicks, Golden has acclimated quickly, being highly productive in camp's first 8 practices, forming a big 4. So it kind of feels like those 4 are at the top of the food chain here. Obviously, Williams, limited by prior labrum surgery and recent concussion, but returned fully Friday, has time to earn a niche role. So when you look at it here, in terms of playing time, what I personally want to see is Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden on the field, and then work Dontavion Wicks in. Now, if Dontavion Wicks continues to build off a little bit of momentum he had, granted, I think he had a calf injury early in camp here, so that's going to set you back a touch. I would be totally on board with Dontavion Wicks surpassing Romeo Doubs if he earns it. But, boy, it feels like Romeo Doubs is in a real good place this year, Tim. You've been at camp. I seen yesterday he was over at the crowd leading the Go Pack Go chant. You see, all the footage that's come out, he seems like he's in a much better place mentally this year. He's happy. He's doing stuff like this constantly.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like it's almost like he got good news behind the scenes. What if they did extend him? I think it's highly unlikely, but if he comes out and balls out this year, maybe they do keep Rome around.
I was going to say, on top of all those points, which are absolutely 100% accurate and true, he's having a pretty damn good camp so far. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but, Iron iron sharpens iron, as we say, right? And I've seen Rome cook more than one of our DBs more than once during this training camp. We've seen one-handed grabs. We've seen the full gamut of Romy Rome in the house, watch him out. So I think it's perfectly possible that we could be having conversations at one point about possible trades to seeing him get extended. I think that's a valid point. And you don't know how this room is going to really shape out. But that whole look of Malik Heath or McCole Hardman, if it comes down to those two guys, you want to see me have a stroke on a live stream.
Yeah.
Figure out who to pick. It's going to be one of those two guys because you guys know Malik Heath is a dog and one of my favorites for the last couple of years on this football team, watching him kind of progress up the depth chart a little bit. But then you get, 3-time Super Bowl champion McCole Hardman coming into your receiver room. It's going to be really hard to convince me that McCole Hardman's not on this football team. Not just for what he brings to the return game, but also as a receiver and a leader among a room full of young talent. You've got kind of a veteran leadership in there. So at this point in camp, I know it's early. We haven't seen preseason games or anything yet, but I think McCole Hardman's on this football team now if you're making that decision today. So I don't know what that means for Malik Heath,
Right. Keep that super chat up. Jacob, let's get your take on wide receiver, then we'll answer that super chat. Thank you so much, Seth. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, man, if there ever was a year that we keep 7, and maybe like the only thing I can think of is that we are so confident in the offensive line, the rotation that we have with the front 5 and maybe like 3 solid backups. I just, for some reason, kind of think that this may be that year. And that would mean probably we only have 3 tight ends, 3 running backs. You know what I mean? So very scaled down. I just, like Tim just mentioned, there's just too much talent from the front end to the back end to the middle end. I don't know what's going to happen with Dontavian Wicks. He's, to me, the one that's the most up in the air just because we've seen such hot and cold from him. And we need him to come out of camp and just absolutely show us what he can do like he did with that. I believe his first season was his better of the 2. And he even admits that, I believe. Yeah. And
it does appear that he's kind of shored up the quote unquote drop issue. His hands look a lot better so far.
And I always go back. I remember, wasn't he the one that he came off the sidelines and his head was down and Aaron Jones went over, grabbed him and picked his head up and, dusted him off basically. And I'm wondering if maybe he lacked some sort of mentorship maybe in year 2 once Jonesy left, and maybe somebody else in the meantime is kind of taking him under his wing kind of thing. So
like that all being Hardman, maybe.
Honest, I was just going to say maybe a guy that maybe you wouldn't expect, like a McCole Hardman. And I do think, you already talked about, or we mentioned yesterday how LaFleur kind of snuck in. I believe it was like an end round with McCole Hardman, kind of as that gadget motion guy. That fits. It really fits to me in the way that they may use this scheme. But you look at that wide receiver group, I would argue, do we have the best first wide receiver? Probably not. Do we have the best starting 3? Yeah. Do we have the best starting 5? 100%. Best starting 7? Yeah, I really do believe that we have the deepest wide receiver room, man. It's deeper than never mind. I will say too that I really am excited for the emergence of what Savion Williams could bring to this room, because we've said it multiple times with the 2 tight ends, with the multiple running backs, and with the absolute clown car full of people that we have at wide receiver room. Who are you going to guard, man? It's just not possible.
The thing with Savion Williams, to me is I want to see this guy stay on the football field consistently. Yeah. That's the first big hurdle.
Him, Lloyd, and Musgrave are the guys that just want to stay healthy. Let's see what you can do finally.
Absolutely.
And when you look at this too, we broke camp with 6 last year in terms of wide receiver. Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, they're locks. Savion Williams a lock. Christian Watson's going to be on PUP, right? Dontavian Wicks is 5. McCole Hardman would be 6. To me, the question becomes, do you carry a 7th in Malik Heath, or do you trust them actually passing him to the practice squad? Now, take it a step further. Before we get into tight end, we're going to talk that next. I just want to briefly mention this. When you look at the tight end position, right, what do you have a better chance of doing? Getting Malik Heath to the practice squad without getting poached, or Ben Sims? That's really the question we're asking.
Ben Sims, 100%.
Yeah,
I think Malik Heath gets snatched up with the quickness.
Right. So and here's the thing too. Look at the depth at tight end behind it. Remember, we were talking about John Fitzpatrick making a great catch yesterday, right? Messiah Swinson's he's a monster. You got Johnny Lumpkin. All these guys have multiple years in Matt LaFleur's system, whether they be on the practice squad or got activated on game day. So I think you would roll the dice, only carry 2 tight ends if Musgrave and Kraft are healthy. And then you ain't got to worry about Fitzpatrick, Swinson, or Lumpkin getting poached, right? So maybe that's the route you go. You keep Malik Heath, you carry 7 receivers, you only carry 2 tight ends. Now you can make up another spot somewhere else, but it really comes down to, are you that concerned with Ben Sims getting poached or Malik Heath? So that's really what the question is going to come down to. Let's hit this super chat. Seth Reuter in the chat says Micah Parsons probably not being traded, but ... I love how you went ... space ... making sure we know. That would be a Super Bowl winning move, similar to Reggie White. Normally, I don't entertain these things, but man, listen, Micah Parsons is dominant. The only problem I would have with getting Micah Parsons is you're talking about $40 million a year. That's what you're going to have to pay. Yeah. Now, if people were pissed off about Rashawn Gary making, what was he, $17 million against the cap last year?
Yeah, wait till you see Micah's contract.
Leading the team in sacks, leading the team in pressures, leading the team in run stops, led the entire NFL in edge defenders in run stop percentage, by the way. I mean, that's even better than Micah Parsons, better than TJ Watt, better than Max Crosby, better than all those guys, right?
It's pronounced Max Crosby.
So, listen, if you could get Micah Parsons for a 1-year rental, I'd be willing to spend a 3rd-round pick just to have him for 1 year. But to bring on a huge contract like that, and again, I go back to, if Micah Parsons is so great, if Myles Garrett is so great, if TJ Watt is so great, if Max Crosby is so great, how come their teams all missed the playoffs last year? Typically the answer is, well, it's not his fault. The rest of the team's horrible. Right. Why is that?
Playoffs? Don't talk about.
Could it be that you're occupying so much cap space that, because let's be honest, Micah Parsons, he's not eating up cap space to the best of my knowledge. His deal, I don't even know what his current cap hit is. I want to say I think he's still on his rookie year or the 5th-year option. I could be wrong there, but it's like, if they weren't the difference makers in the team they're on, if we bring them in, what makes us, especially, and that's the other thing it comes back to, is schematically. Like, with what we did last year to stop the run, you're going to see him play a little touch spot. You're going to see them fire Micah Parsons in to occupy a double team to try to free up a defensive tackle. Do you want to spend $40 million on that, or do you want to keep rolling through these role players that improve your defense to 2nd in run defense, and you finish the year tied for 8th in sacks? You know what I mean? You were top 10 in pass defense in terms of EPA per drop back. Like, everything screams top 10, top 3, equaling top 5 defense. Scoring, we were top 5 in scoring defense. And now we're going to eat up a chunk of cap space, whether it be $20 million or $35 million, however you want to allocate the cap. That's the only thing that makes me hesitant, Seth. But again, 1-year rental, shoot, bring him in here. Boy, we could get creative with Micah Parsons. But the other thing, too, you bring an outside guy in, and all of a sudden he's getting paid $40 million per. Yeah. Watch it upset the locker room a little bit. That's what Bill Belichick did so well, was he kind of kept everybody in check with the salary cap, so nobody's ego got out of line. It's why you don't hear about the Packers having holdouts. The closest thing we got was Elton Jenkins. That made it 1 training camp practice. He's like, my back's feeling better. I want to get back out there with the guys. It's because of the culture that Goody's created in managing these contracts and not letting any one contract get out of control, other than the quarterback position, of course. And we know that's the way the game goes. So anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Sorry. Like you said, we've mentioned too about how we don't want progress stoppers just at a time when LVN seems to be absolutely flashing, just when my boy Brenton Cox is on the rise, just when you got guys like Aaron Mosby and, Baron Sorrell, real draft capital, and guys that we actually, and again, I've said it's not coach speak. I think that Matt LaFleur really does believe that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. So in my opinion, like you said, why bring in a guy out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but you know what I mean, into a camp that's already been established? We've already got camaraderie. They already have that brotherhood with Wendell and the Ball King and all the stuff that we're doing right now. Don't bring another wrench into that spoke and just expect it to go smoothly. Pay the guy, like you said, you have to, even if it's a 1-year rental. I think Ryan touched on it. He did actually share some of the sentiment that Seth did. He said, this isn't like a normal free agent. This guy's young. He's 26. He's still basically got his whole career in front of him. So was a great. He basically prefaced it like, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it did, it would make sense with the type of free agents that we sign. We don't kind of long in the tooth guys. We rarely do that as a 1-year stint. I don't think they would do a 1-year stint, or maybe that even Micah Hyde's, or Micah Parson would his camp would even be willing to take a 1-year deal. I think they probably want a longer contract. What do you think, Tim?
I would agree with that 100%. I don't think, as bad as he may or may not technically want to get out of Dallas, I don't think he's going to take a 1-year deal.
Right.
But my goodness, if you'd have to scratch your head and think about it if he was open to that, right? If he was open for a 1-year deal, and like Clayton's saying, you can, possibly get out of paying him long-term and having long-term implications to your cap and everything. Maybe.
What if you would do like a 1-year 20 mil or 25 mil, something like that?
Yeah, but like we're dreaming, right?
Yeah.
We're dreaming. It's not going to happen. So, and here's the other thing: we're building a team, not collecting talent. And if you bring a Micah Parsons in, as I can't even say his name, you're going to be in a situation where you're continuing to collect talent. And like Jacob's saying, we got guys that we've been working on and that have been in this system, particularly LVN, year 2 in a Hafley scheme, and is starting to really kind of come into his own. You could have inadvertent progress stoppers, or you're forced with the question, what do you do with how do you get these guys all on the field consistently? That's another problem you're going to have also. So you can do a lot of good don't get me wrong, Micah Parsons is a monster, right? Yeah. It's going to make your football team better, but it's also going to be difficult when you're looking at the grand scheme of things as far as building your squad. What does that do to, we're already talking about wanting to see Rashawn Gary getting more, pass rush reps and all these things. It's like you bring Micah Parsons into the fold. What does that do, schematically?
Here's the other thing too, like the way you can make it make sense with your cap is to move on from Gary next year. So let's say you were to trade for Micah Parsons and you have to give, I don't know what you'd have to give up. Like that's the other thing. And this isn't a shot at Seth. I'm talking about on Twitter. Okay.
Yeah.
People will talk about, go get him, but they never mention what they have to give up for him. Right. So like, would you give up a 1st-round pick for a guy and then move on from Gary? So people would say that's a big improvement, right? Okay, if it is an improvement, like Jim H says, Micah disappeared in the playoff loss to Green Bay. You guys remember that? How did they make him disappear?
Running the damn football.
That and Aaron Jones had a lot to do with that, right? They just had a little chip on him. Now, again, what you're doing is you're now removing Rashawn Gary and you're putting in Micah Parsons. And here's what's funny. Coach Lynn says Micah's not a good in run defense. To me, I agree with I don't know if I would say he's not good, Coach, but Gary was the best edge defender against the run last year. So you're going to take a hit in run defense to get a guy for $40 million per to come in and rush the passer when Jeff Hafley's looking up going, hey, guys, harness the pass rush. Let's make sure we stop the run first. It just, to me, there's just too many questions there, in terms of that. So great conversation, though. Thank you for that super chat there, Seth.
Is that the same Seth that we went to the game with?
Yeah, that's him, man.
What up, Seth? That was a
he
fun
won our
game.
Monday Night Football giveaway, where we gave away a ticket to a Monday Night Football game up there in the luxury box where Jacob was acting like a heathen around all the upper crust.
Luckily, it was Seth and not Charles Manson. Remember?
Oh boy! Someday we will tell that story live on the air. We got to give it at least another year. We can tell that story. That was
you remember when the guy behind us he comes back, he goes, "We got cut off. They're not selling no more beers anymore." And then I went up and grabbed like 3. I think it's just you, buddy.
Jacob said, "I'm gonna go get some more." I said, "I'm gonna go grab another drink. Y'all want something?" That guy behind us said, "They ain't gonna serve you." Jacob looked at me and looked at him, and he just walked off. And he came back and had 2 tall boys. And I went, "Oh." He came back. He went, "What the hell? They wouldn't sell me."
Oh, we're gonna give him some.
I wonder why. They're probably scared you're going to pee in your seat. You know what I mean? Anyway, Soder says, who do you cut when Watson comes back? Well,
don't say that. I got a headache. I got to go. My head hurts already.
Man, that's so
I don't want to think about that.
Here I'm gonna opt out here, Soder.
Yeah, I plead the fifth.
Someone will probably be hurt, and they'll go on the IR for a little bit. I'm just going to go with that because, seriously, he asked a great question. If everybody's healthy, what do you do there? Maybe that's where you start that heavy rotation of just, when I say heavy rotation, you just keep 2 tight ends on the roster and then activate one and deactivate another position as you need it. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Yeah, honestly, that was what I was going to say and I'm not hoping for an injury. If it happens to occur, and they always do, there's injuries every year to every team. Maybe it happens in the wide receiver room. Maybe it's not a big deal. He's got a little turf toe for maybe a week or two kind of thing. We're able to play some Monopoly. Like you said, we're strong at certain positions where you feel comfortable going with a 2 tight end game, and I saw somebody else in the chat that reiterated like maybe Savion could, in a pinch have to maybe play a sort of hybrid tight end role. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think that's probably how I'd have to work that in. But man, and it looks like Watson's going to be here sooner than later. I really do believe that.
I guess for me, I'm looking at it from the lens of, do we break camp with 7? And then when Scoop comes back, then we go to 6, right? It all depends on how they want to approach this. And it's nice to, we know about the versatility of a Savion Williams, but again, we need to see him stay on the football field for more than, a couple days at a time, and prove that he can even fill that type of a role. If you're going to make that move. Otherwise, you look at, the receiver room as it is, that's going to be an extremely difficult decision. Like, say you break camp with 6, which is already tough enough to do. Now you get Scoot back. Who's going to, who's switching? Who's getting busted down to practice squad, or who's getting released?
We'll just make them into cornerbacks.
There you go. Right. So let's hit on tight end real quick before we wrap this hour up. Tight ends, bottom of the depth chart. We kind of hit on it a little bit. Let's just briefly go through the info here. Tucker Kraft starts, plays most snaps. Luke Musgrave ready to reclaim his role, right? And we talk about the unprecedented 12 personnel a little bit if you want to get away from 11. I personally disagree with that. But you can also flex Musgrave out, so 12 might as well be 11. They got to make a decision. Do we put a backer out there on him in man coverage, or do we put a safety out there? All that's going to come into play. Number 3 battle, Ben Sims, waived from the Vikings last year. John Fitzpatrick from the Falcons practice squad as the front runners for the number 3 battle. And again, I think if you come out of camp locking both of those guys equally, then you go, let's carry 2 tight ends, and whichever one makes it, maybe they both make it. If they both make it through waivers, get them both on the practice squad, right? But whichever one does make it, that'll be your practice squad guy. Fitzpatrick showed receiving ability with catches from Malik Willis on Friday, expressed love for Green Bay and benefits a full offseason program. It seems like Fitzpatrick has taken a step forward. I would put him right behind Ben Sims, but he's on Ben Sims' heels right now, it feels like, for the number 3 tight end. Anything you guys want to add to that as we wrap up hour 1 here?
I agree with that assessment. For sure, at least at this point in camp, right? And we've seen some from both of those guys. I really like Ben Sims a lot. I really do. And Fitzpatrick as well, other than missing that damn block against the Eagles. Got a lot of love for him too. That's tight end room, man, is another, sneaky, tough one to figure out at this point. And unfortunately, like we talked about earlier, it's football. Guys are going to get banged up. Injuries are going to determine a lot of things, and who's healthy at the right time, and who's, like I said, also who's taking that step forward while someone might have took a step back. At the same time, roster can tilt very, very rapidly as you progress through the preseason. So tight end battle is something to keep an eye on. I agree with the assessment that Fitzpatrick is right on Ben Sims' heels right now at this point. We'll see how it plays out. Yeah,
you guys know that. I mean, I was a Ben Sims fan from the start, and I think that he's just done enough to maybe I don't know if he'd get poached. I don't think he's done enough to quite get poached, but he's done just enough so that the Packers may not want to let him even have that opportunity. And I would argue that, I don't quite know. We don't have like a road grader tight end. You know what I mean? We don't have that Mercedes Lewis type guy that's just going to be in there. That's absolutely, I'd argue that Tucker Kraft is probably the most physical out of that group. I definitely think Musgrave is a work in progress, and he's more of that kind of hybrid. Like you said, you can split him out. You could go from a 12 to 11 very easily with him. So something like a Dalton Kincaid type player. And then with Sims and Fitzpatrick, I do feel like both of those guys are a little more of the skilled position. You know what I mean? Whereas you look at maybe like a Messiah Swinson, now that's probably your kind of anchor, big old school type of tight end. And just as we end this little segment up here, I did want to highlight what Jim H said earlier. Gates, I believe we talked about how Shannon and Sterling were the first brothers going into the Hall of Fame. I believe that Antonio Gates is the first player to ever make it into the Football Hall of Fame that never played college football, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
And a name that I don't care. You don't know ball if we're talking about GOAT tight ends, and Antonio Gates' name does not come up in the conversation. I mean, you can run tape on that guy for days and days and days. And just
he was
watch
an
him.
absolute superstar at Kent State playing basketball. Dude was just dominant. They said when you go into the facility, I heard them talking about it yesterday. When you go into Kent State's facility, their basketball, and there's just literally the wall is just littered with pictures of Antonio Gates posterizing people in college basketball. So yeah, pretty wild that he just steps right into the NFL and goes to the Hall of Fame. So
I like your point about Tucker Kraft real quick before we move on. You're saying like, you know, that kind of battering ram bruiser type of physical enforcer tight end. We know that that's Tuck Norris, right? The problem is he's such a beast as a vertical threat and such a threat as a, you know, in the pass game.
In the yak too.
In the yak and all these things, it's like you got to utilize him in that way. You know, like we say, oh, he can go there and block somebody into oblivion, but is that getting the most out of a dynamic tight end like Tucker Kraft?
I think that's what Coach is touching on. That we need one of those.
An inline dog. I agree.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for hour one. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour two, where we'll dive into the offensive line and then pick up on defense. We appreciate y'all.